Thanks for joining me for an annotated listen to Blue and Boogie by the Miles Davis Sextet. This is not the sextet that went on to record Kind of Blue. It's a 1954 recording date with a pickup band of great jazz musicians. It features Miles Davis on trumpet, J.J. Johnson on trombone, Lucky Thompson on tenor sax, Horace Silver on piano, Percy Heath on bass, and Kenny Clark on the drums. This appeared on the same 10-inch LP as the more famous Walkin', but it is just as good an example of early hard bop as its more popular cousin. You can still hear a lot of the vestiges of proper bebop, especially when it comes to Lucky Thompson's soloing, and there are a lot of wonderful moments in this song. So let's begin in 3, 2, 1, now. And here Kenny Clark sets us off. Again, this extended drum intro, that's something that feels very typical of bebop. Intros and outros on the drums. The main statement here is just 3 notes. This is a blues form. There are only 3 chords, and this melody is really simple. Just 3 notes: a B flat, G, and A flat. One of the characteristic features of bebop was that the songs had relatively complex chord progressions, and the soloists had to go through some pretty limber acrobatics to try to outline all of those chord progressions. But here, in a song that has a relatively simple structure, we still hear Miles Davis really kind of outlining home. He spends an awful lot of time returning to 2 particular pitches. One is B flat, which is kind of the home key of the whole song, and the other pitch is D, which is what a musician would call a third above that. And this D, B flat, D, B flat, those 2 tones back and forth, something about that must have really stuck in Miles Davis's head, because there it is, D, B flat. You hear it here. It reaches perhaps its zenith in 1981 as the main theme of Jean-Pierre, but you can also hear it in All Blues on the My Funny Valentine album. You can hear it on Petit Machin on Feed the Kilimanjaro. It pops up over and over. So here with D and B flat as his melodic home, Miles Davis just does a lot of explorations, but never gets too far away before he returns. There it is again. This is J.J. Johnson. And his playing isn't as grounded in one particular set of notes as home. It sounds to me more like he's just exploring different melodic ideas. But one thing that does feel similar to J.J. Johnson's playing is it does have these stops and starts. He's getting into ideas, seeing them a few measures into the material, and then coming up with a new idea here. And in this way, these first 2 solos are going to be a stark contrast to Lucky Thompson's more straight up bebop when he comes in. It's going to be a real wall of notes. Let's hear J.J. Johnson. Here we can hear Horace Silver providing some nice chords underneath everything before this more arranged break here. So here we can hear Lucky Thompson's more fluid playing. It doesn't have these stops and starts. It's really an interesting run-on sentence, but it feels like a run-on sentence here. He just has so many ideas that all run into one another. And it's interesting to hear that the rhythm section's really having to respond to this, almost to break up the sound and keep it from getting too monotonous. You hear these breaks, you hear Miles Davis and J.J. Johnson have a little arranged part underneath it, and you're going to start to hear Kenny Clark much more active underneath the solo. Kenny Clark was really just keeping time for the first two solos, but there are a lot of accented hits now. And I think that really complements Lucky Thompson's playing, which is a lot more incessant. In itself, it doesn't have as many rhythmic features. Now, this is a little bit more of a bluesy feel from Lucky Thompson. And actually, if you go back and listen, he does blend some of these bluesy feels into more of a bebop rhythm, which is a really cool idea. Now we have Horace Silver here. Listen to his left hand. There's this percussive thumping. He's keeping a really strange rhythm, but it really works. It's a very aggressive style of playing. And now, I think that right there is a nod to the boogie in the title, Blue and Boogie. Now his playing is just as prolific as Lucky Thompson's, but I think you don't hear the other instrumentalists coming in with these rhythmic stabs because Horace Silver's feel is so syncopated and so rhythmic that it's not really clear how to accent that in a way that will add and not detract from the picture he's painting. Here's Miles again. Now, it was a short bit of music, but one of the interesting things to me about Miles's return for a short solo here is that DB flat melodic idea that seems so stuck in his head in the beginning is gone now, as though the other players have had this influence on him. And that was really more of a blues and bebop rooted solo. So there you have it. That's Blue and Boogie. Great example of early hard bop. It's just really amazing to listen to how the different personalities of each musician can come out. And again, part of that is the relatively stripped down form of the blues. You hear four artists with four very different interpretations of the music. I mean, maybe even five different interpretations because, again, to my ear, Miles Davis's second short solo sounds like it's pulling from a different set of creative impulses than his much longer first solo. Blue and Boogie, great hard bop. Thanks for joining me.